Creating a travel authorization from a blank authorization. A travel authorization is a tool travelers use to obtain prior approval before a trip is taken. It allows travelers to submit a request showing an estimate of itemized travel-related expenses. A travel authorization cannot be prepared for dates in the past. Click SFS Applications. Click SFS Financials. Click Employee Self-Service. Click Travel Authorization under Employee T&E Center. Click Create. This is the Travel Authorization entry page. It is used to create and submit travel authorization requests. Collapse the menu pagelet. Click the Minimize button. This action gives a larger screen for better viewing. Click the Quick Start drop-down arrow. This will allow you to select a particular creation method for the travel authorization. There are two creation methods you should use. The first is a blank authorization, and the second is an existing authorization. If the travel authorization has been created in SFS, it can be selected here and copied to speed up the travel authorization process. Do not use a template to create an authorization. Choose a blank authorization. Click Go. Click in the description field. The description field should be specific enough so the expense report can be identified quickly. Click the Comments field. Enter the justification or purpose of the trip. Choose your business purpose. Click the drop-down arrow. Here is where you will select your purpose of travel. Click the DOB approval code field. If a DOB approval code was obtained for this trip, it must be entered in the DOB approval code field. The default location is the travel destination. Type in the state's two-letter designation and the first few letters of the city you visited. Click the magnifying glass. Note that the BSC may deny your report if this field is not populated. Select the correct location. Based on the default location selected, per diem amounts auto-populate and hotel rates will be validated. If travel is out of state, click the Out of State box here. The official station field will be used to identify the location the user is officially assigned to, regardless of work location. The information in this field will auto-populate based on your employee profile. The work location field is used to identify an alternate work site if not working from your official station. Enter your travel start date by clicking on the calendar next to the From field. Clicking on the calendar will give you a pop-up box to choose your travel dates. Note that the BSC may deny your report if the travel from and to dates are not populated. Enter your travel end date by clicking on the calendar next to the To field. Clicking on the calendar will give you a pop-up box to choose your travel dates. Click the From and To box to enter your normal work hours. Time can be entered in 24-hour format or 12-hour format, followed by AM/PM. The BSC may deny your report if these fields are not populated. Click on Accounting Defaults. The Accounting Defaults page displays the chart field coding for the traveler. Some or all of the necessary fields may auto-populate. Verify the coding is correct or alter as necessary. If you are unsure of the coding, check with your budget office. Click OK. The Details section of the page is used to enter all expenses for the trip. Each line is a separate expense. Click the Expense Type drop-down arrow corresponding to the first expense. All available expense types are listed here. Find the appropriate selection for the expense and click the item. Next, we will enter the expense date and the amount spent. Click on the calendar and choose the date that indicates what date you will be making the expense. Click in the amount field corresponding to the expense and enter the estimated amount of the expense. Click the Payment Type drop-down arrow. There are three payment types: AP Prepaid, which indicates an accounts payable voucher will be used to pay the merchant; Personal Funds, which indicates an out-of-pocket expense; or Travel Card, which indicates the use of a travel card. Select the payment type that you used for the expense. The billing type, while containing an asterisk, does not have any functionality. It can be ignored. Click the Detail link. It is recommended to click the detail link for every expense entered. There may be additional required information for the item that can only be entered via the detail link. The authorization detail page is much like the expense detail page in an expense report and allows you to enter additional information about a particular expense. Fill in the description field as needed and enter the appropriate information for the start items. Note that the fields that appear on this page can be different based on the expense type. Click Check Expense for Errors. This Check Expense for Errors button will check only this expense for possible errors, but not the entire expense report. There are no errors in this expense. Click Return to Travel Authorization Entry. A typical travel authorization will have multiple expense lines to represent all estimated travel expenses that will be made during the travel. For the purpose of this module, we will review a few typical expenses such as meals and lodging. Click the Expense Type drop-down arrow to choose the next expense. If the date needs to be altered, click on the calendar and choose the correct date. The per diem amount will auto-populate based on the default location selection. Click the payment type list corresponding to this expense. You should select Personal Funds as the payment type anytime per diem or personal automobile mileage is selected as the expense type. Click the detail link corresponding to the second expense line. Click Check Expense for Errors. If no errors are found, you can return to the travel authorization entry. For multiple night stays, you can use the Copy function. Click the Select option of the line you want to copy, then click the Copy Selected button. On the Copy Selected Expenses page, choose Copy to one date or Copy to range of dates based on your proposed travel. Click the calendar and add applicable dates. Click OK. The expense line is now copied. You can add additional rows to your travel authorization by clicking the plus icon or clicking Add New Expense. Enter the desired number of blank rows into the Rows to Add field. Click OK. Notice that one blank line has been added. A lodging expense will now be entered. Click the expense type and choose Receipted Lodging. Click on the calendar and choose the date for the overnight stay. The amount should fill in automatically. Click the payment type and select the relevant payment type. Click the detail link. Enter the desired merchant information into the Non-Preferred Merchant field. Note that the Preferred Merchant field is not used in SFS. The per diem rate is automatically populated. If the rate is different, the nightly rate must be entered by the traveler. The system will validate the rate and give an error message if the rate entered is over the lodging per diem based on the default location entered earlier. Click Check Expense for Errors. If you must go over the per diem rate on a trip, SFS will require an exception comment to be entered before the travel document can be submitted. Type an explanation in the Location Amount field. Click the Return to Authorization Entry link. Click the Check for Errors button. This will check the entire travel authorization for errors. Click the Update Totals button to ensure the total amount of the travel authorization is correct. If you would like to save the travel authorization and complete or update it at a different time, click the Save for Later button. After you've clicked Save for Later, the computer will automatically generate a 10-digit report ID number. This will be your reference number for the travel authorization you have created. When you are done, click the Submit button. When this button is clicked, the travel authorization is saved, sent to Budget Check, and submitted into the agency approval workflow. If changes to the details of a travel authorization are needed after submission, an approver must deny the travel authorization back to the traveler to make the changes and resubmit. One exception to this is that the budget unit approver can update the DOB approval code field and modify accounting details on the travel authorizations in the approval workflow. Click the OK button. On the final screen, you can view the travel authorization you have just submitted. You have successfully completed creating travel authorizations from a blank authorization.